start my timer as well. So there I am, Vernon Wright, of course, Global Ed Tech Academy, brought to you by the phenomenal people of Microsoft EDU and Q Inc. This is a game changer, and I'm telling you right now, this is really a pivotal moment in professional development for educators. It really, really, really is. This is so neat and it is so cool that we have this opportunity to go ahead and be a part of something that literally has a global reach worldwide, right? So, of course, that's me. So, this is, of course, what relevance do you have as a leader? Of course, this is a new series, Reflections of a Leader series. There are different parts that will come forward and that will come after this session. Of course, this session will be coming up again in the future for a second time, but really excited to share this session with you and to really begin not only the series, but begin really what, for me, just being very authentic with you, is really a desire for me to share some of the stories, some of the experiences, some of the things that I have experienced and have learned over my career in different roles about leadership, right? Hence the title, Reflections of a Leader. So today, of course, we are here to talk about what relevance do you have as a leader? What relevance do you have as a leader? Thank you guys so much for being here. Of course, there you see at the bottom underneath Reflections of a Leader, you see q.org/Microsoft. That's how you can get connected with all of the sessions and all of the speakers and find out about the schedule and when you can plug into those sessions like this one and really get connected with some great stuff. You see the hashtags there as well, GETA, short, of course, for Global Ed Tech Academy. You see Microsoft EDU, and of course, you see there we are Q. Thanks so much to those folks. So let me go ahead and just talk real quick about this moment in history for our nation and for our world. And all of us, of course, are aware of the things that have happened in our world and are happening in our world, and the things that also, too, are part of a literally part of a global dialogue, right? And so here's what I want to say. What I want to say is this, really at the onset of what we're going to go ahead and get into today. And I just want to share with you right now, being very honest with you and authentic with you, I am so excited to share this information with you. This is really some neat information. I've been so excited all day. I've been waiting to go ahead and share this with you also. I just want you to know that up front. I value your time and value you being here with me. You could have chosen to do a variety of things, but you chose to be here with me, and thank you so much for that. So, of course, as well, Microsoft EDU and Q, thank you for your global commitment to equity and literally to developing educators worldwide. Folks, how many of you know that this is not just happening in our cities and in our towns? It's not just happening in our regions. It's not just happening in our state. It's not just happening in our nation. When Microsoft EDU and Q come together, they are two powerhouses that come together, and they enable us all to have global reach and global interconnectedness. So thank you again to Microsoft EDU and to Q for making that happen. Of course, you see the hashtags down there as well as q.org/Microsoft, or you can go ahead and, of course, again, get connected with the other speakers and the other sessions that are happening and the schedule as well. So you see that guy there. Of course, hello, welcome. I'm Vernon Wright. If you follow me on Twitter, you already know that my Twitter handle is @the_Wright_leader. If you don't, would love to have you go ahead and go over there to Twitter and follow me and be a part of the PLN and a part of the dialogue. One of the things that is so great and so awesome about Twitter is when we're in professional development and we're in learning spaces, when those spaces and those sessions are over, the learning continues beyond that, right? And Twitter gives us the platform to do that. So would love to have you follow me over there, the Wright Leader, of course. And as we're sharing out today, and we're having this, what I'm really convinced, even before we get into it, is going to be a phenomenal time of sharing. If you'd like to go ahead and tweet out about some great things that you have learned during the session, some things that have been impactful for you, some things that you say, you know what, Vernon, this really for me was memorable. It resonated so deeply with me. Would love to have you go ahead and share that out and make a positive, profound difference in the lives of the other people that are here in the PLN. If you would go ahead and use those hashtags, Microsoft EDU, hashtag GETA, GETA, We Are Q, and of course, again, the website. If you want to get connected with other sessions in the schedule and everything else that's happening, q.org/Microsoft. So, with that being said, you're probably wondering, so who is Vernon Wright, right? Who is this guy named Vernon Wright? Well, I'm founder of this website called ZeroApologyZone.com, and it's part of a larger company that I have where we are able to use our platform to really go ahead and express a positive message that is an uplifting message and an inspiring message through apparel, right? So ZeroApologyZone.com. Entrepreneur, that is me. Part of me is has a strong business background before I ever got into education, so I love honoring that. Speaker, of course, I'm here with you today sharing. A consultant, have been very fortunate and blessed to have worked with a number of people behind the scenes as a consultant to really help them go ahead and go to the next level and absolutely enjoy and love that work. A leader, very blessed to have served in a variety of different roles, both at the campus level and at the district level as well. Performance coach, one of the things that I absolutely love is working with clients in coaching one-on-one to really take what is their life, both professional and personal, to the next level. So that's a little bit about me, right? So with that being said, you see the graphic here, the 5 R's of effective instruction, the 5 R's of effective instruction, right? Real, relevant, rigorous, reflective, and refined. Real, relevant, rigorous, reflective, and refined. And so you might be wondering, okay, well, Vernon, this is a little bit different than the title that I saw, which is Reflection of a Leader, right? It's about relevance. Well, I included this graphic to go ahead and let you know that before I started this series, I did another session as part of the Microsoft EDU and Q partnership and venture together. And it was over the 5 R's of effective instruction. If you didn't catch that session when I did that, feel free to go ahead and go over to q.org/Microsoft. And you will see a list of all of the other sessions that have taken place, and you will find that session there as well, and a link that will take you to all of the videos that Q has on their YouTube channel. So the 5 R's of effective instruction. You might be wondering why the graphic in the middle, right? Why that visual? One of the reasons why I love using visuals is, obviously that's a different representation of the same information. And so one of the reasons why I chose that for this particular slide was, as we're getting ready to get into this series, there is really a building upon information each time that we come together, really what I would call the cumulative effect, right? So if you didn't catch the 5 R's before, that would be something great to connect with and plug into. We'll go ahead and we'll share what we have here today, but having that information as well will definitely be helpful for you and will make a difference. So let's start out with a question. If money was of no concern, where would you choose to take a vacation to? If money was of no concern, where would you choose to take a vacation to? If you would, in the chat, just go ahead and type, if money was of no concern, where would you choose to take a vacation to? Type in the chat where you would take a vacation to. Give you a couple of minutes to think about that. All right, there's our good friend James. So glad to see you, James, again. He says a trip around the world. I like that one. If money was of no concern, where would you choose to take a vacation to? I will tell you, for me, seeing that blue water in the background, I think it would be somewhere on a beach or tropical or something like that, right? If money was of no concern, where would you choose to take a vacation to? And one of the things I want to say with you and share with you really is that when I ask that question, there's really no right or wrong answer, right? It's whatever you feel is an answer that really speaks from your heart, is something to think about. Wherever we would choose to vacation at, what does that say about us as individuals, our preferences, the things that we like, and the perspectives that we have, right? And so that really permeates everything that we do. And that's what makes us cool as individuals. So let's go ahead and go on. So, what are some of the Microsoft apps that are your faves that enhance your daily endeavors? There are a few there. So, if you would in the chat, just go ahead and type what Microsoft apps do you feel that you'd say, you know what, Vernon, man, these are just ones that I just absolutely have to have. These are my go-to apps. These are my go-to programs, whether it's in a professional context or a personal context. These are my go-tos, right? So if you would just go ahead and type that in there in the chat. Which one of those apps do you feel like, you know what, Vernon, these are just essentials? And Susan says PowerPoint. Thank you so much. Outlook. That's great. I will tell you, you see there, it says Microsoft Teams. And of course, that's what I'm sharing this information with you all here today through, which is Microsoft Teams. And I will share something with you. Of course, there are a lot of other competing products out there when it comes to web conferencing, right? And I've used, I'm almost convinced that I've used all of them, right? And I will tell you that really for me, the one that I like the most and the one that for me is the most intuitive is Microsoft Teams. And the degree of integration in terms of me being able to pull in documents from the Office 365 suite is just unrivaled, right? The integration. And one of the things I will share with you as well is the Microsoft Teams group, right? The group that works on developing that app. They are actively developing that app and adding features to it continuously. So Microsoft Teams is continuing to grow and is continuing to evolve. Great, great, great product. All right. So some faves of mine, I like Microsoft To Do. One of the great things about that is, you know, if you have it on your cell phone or you have it on your laptop, on a tablet, it all syncs, right? It all syncs. And that's one of the things that's really great is, you know, you might not always necessarily have a laptop on you. You might not always necessarily have a tablet on you. You might be in a meeting and have your tablet or laptop, but maybe your cell phone is at your desk, or maybe it's, you know, in a backpack or in a purse or something else, and you can't, you know, retrieve it, right? But regardless of what device you have access to, Microsoft To Do is right there with you, synced across all the devices. Good stuff. Mile IQ. If you track mileage, you might have heard of Mile IQ before. But one of the things that's interesting that I have found in discussions with different people that track their mileage for various reasons is that they really didn't know that Mile IQ was part of the Microsoft family. So there you see where it says Microsoft 365 for Business. Mile IQ is part of the Microsoft family. You might not have known that. So pretty neat stuff there. All right. So I want to go ahead and give us a question, right? As we get into this Reflection of a Leader series and we talk about relevance and being relevant, right? So I'm going to start out with a guiding question. And if you have been in the profession a while and you have done a lot of study, even if you haven't been in the profession for a while and maybe you're even new to the profession, but you've done a lot of study around the power of questioning, you know that guiding questions are really powerful because they do just that. They guide kind of what our thinking will be and kind of lead us to a certain area, right? They give us a primer. They give us a start. They give us a place to go ahead and say, hey, what is something that I can think about as we go through this time of sharing? And that's what I wanted to go ahead and share with you today, which is this. How can we use innovation and empowerment in our roles to advance student achievement? How can we use innovation and empowerment in our roles to advance student achievement? Now, you don't need to answer that now in the chat, but just something for you to think about as we go through the whole time of sharing today. And again, I just absolutely must tell you that I am so excited to share this information with you all today. Very, very, very excited. And so that's our guiding question. So as we go through today, just be thinking about how can we use innovation and empowerment to advance student achievement? So 3 high impact levers for teaching and leadership. Those of you that were with me for the 5 R's, you've seen this before. I do like to go ahead and include this when I speak in other sessions as well, because it really gives us a really great base, right, of understanding. And so 3 high impact levers for teaching and leadership. Number 1 is competence. You don't have to know everything, but you do have to know some things, right? Second thing is communication. There are various forms of communication. Here's one that maybe we don't necessarily think about as much, right? One that we may not necessarily think about as much is nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication, right? All right. So, number three, connection. And you connect with people, right? You connect with them, right? So, competence, communication, and connection. But let's go ahead and do the same thing, but this time with a twist. Yeah, with a twist. Let's go ahead and go to the next level with it. Number one, let's see what number one is. Oh, it's connection again. But notice what I put underneath connection. It's authentic and aligned. And so let me just stop here for a second and say that when we're talking about making a connection with people, it has to be authentic, and people have to perceive and to know that it is an authentic connection, right? And the other thing is, we're not just making a connection to make a connection, we're making a connection that is aligned, right? It's aligned with our vision, and it's aligned with the other person's vision, and it's a coming together. So it's authentic and it's aligned, right? It's not just any kind of connection. So it's connection with a real foundation, right? All right. So number two, impact. And a lot of people have asked me over the years, those of you that were with me for the 5 hours, you know that I shared with you that people have asked me over the years, Vernon, what is impact, right? How do you really get down to maybe a level that's granular with what quote unquote impact is, right? And what I always tell folks is this: impact is when you add value to someone else's life. And when we talk about quote unquote adding value, simply it's this: whatever it is that I am contributing to the process and the learning process, is it helping you to reach and achieve whatever your goals or desired outcomes are? If I'm helping you to achieve and to reach those desired outcomes, I'm adding value, right? And so being here with you all today, that's the goal. The goal is to go ahead and have an impact. Well, you say, okay, well, Vernon, what's the impact? The impact is by the time we get through in this time of sharing together today, is there anything within this type of time of sharing that helps you go ahead and get to the end result and the desired outcomes that you want in your life, to your goals, to seeing your goals become a reality? Number three is scale. And this is something that we don't necessarily talk a lot about in the education profession, but it's talked a lot about in the world of business. And for me, this is the way that, I'll give you the Wright Leader translation for scale, the way that I have it, right, in terms of a definition, a working definition for me. Scale is simply this for me: how can I reach as many people as possible so that they can experience some of the really cool things that I've been able to experience with other professionals in education and other leaders in education? So how can we reach as many people so they can experience those same things? And then guess what happens? We build capacity in those individuals. So guess what they're able to do? Turn around and help other people experience those same wonderful, profoundly positive experiences. So that is scale. Really, really, really important. How many of you know that if you had been involved at a campus level where you've worked in turning a school around, that once you were successful in turning a school around, and I've worked at multiple schools over the years where we have successfully, as part of the campus team, turned the school around. I've been in the roles of a teacher leader, department chair, intern, admin, an administrative intern, but as well, too, part of campus leadership. And once you turn a school around, right, what does senior leadership typically want to know? First of all, what did you do? And then secondly, how can we get the other schools to go ahead and make significant progress in the same way? And really what they're speaking to is scale, right? All right. So big question for you here. Go ahead and check the chat. All right. Make sure we're doing good over there. Looks like we're doing great on the chat, and that's good stuff there. Very good. All right. What does relevant mean within the context of our learning today? So if you would in the chat, go ahead and type what you feel relevant means. Go ahead and type in the chat, what do you feel relevant means? Like, what does it mean to you? So if we were to see each other at a conference and I were to see all of us together as a group, and I were to ask you all as a group at a conference, maybe during a conference break or at lunch or at dinner at a conference, I would ask all of you, hey guys, what do we think relevant means, right? What would you tell me? What does relevant mean to you, right? Not a wrong answer or right answer, just what does relevant mean to you? So if you would just go ahead and type that in the chat. What does relevant mean? Okay. All right. So here's what relevant means, right? And this is the definition from the dictionary. It says relevant is having significant or demonstrable bearing on the matter at hand, bearing upon or connected with the matter at hand, pertinent. I want you to go ahead and notice what word showed up there again. It was the word connected, right? Connected. And here we got, it says real life application or problem solving. Real life application or problem solving. That is great. Connects to me as an individual, professionally and personally. Love that. Notice the two things in the chat there. Thank you, Mr. Ortega. And thank you, Natasha, there. Appreciate that. Notice it says there, real life application or problem solving. Notice he said real life. That's important. We'll come back to that here in a little bit, right? I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I'm really excited here. Connects to me as an individual, right? That word connected, that is powerful. James says here, and thank you again, the both of you there, Servando and Natasha, for telling us that and sharing that with us. James says they updated our math curriculum and it will need to be implemented in the fall. Was not updated since 2005. The reason is because it was no longer relevant, right? So again, is it timely? Sometimes, you might think of being relevant as timely, right? Is it relevant information? Is it timely? And that's absolutely right, James. And when we talk about skills that are within the curriculum, skills of focus, right? Are those skills of focus what the global marketplace needs for kids to have? We're not talking about, the skill sets maybe that were applicable in 1995. We're talking about what skill sets are needed in the global marketplace of 2020 and beyond, right? Okay. All right. So having significant or demonstrable bearing, that means you kind of understand what's going on, right? Right. You kind of got an accurate assessment of what's going on. Bearing upon or connected with the matter at hand. That means that not only are you seeing the matter and you're learning about and hearing about the matter, but you have some connection to it. How many of you know that when you have a connection to something, that automatically means that you have some level of meaning that you have with that thing? So relevant, right? All right. So big question. What role does relevance have in addressing issues of equity, especially with regard to technology for students? Go ahead and type in the chat there. What do you think relevance, what role do you think that it plays in addressing issues of equity? What role do you feel relevance has in addressing issues of equity? All right, if you would go ahead and just type that in the chat here. Let's see what we have here, because that's a hot topic, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, obviously, as you know, is not only equity, but obviously working with Q Inc. and Microsoft EDU. Again, thank you to those guys for making this possible with their support and infrastructure. We're talking about not only equity, we're talking about technology, right? And how many of you know that going through this process of instruction with COVID, we've had some places where we were not able to see at a national level as well as a global level that there really were level playing fields in terms of equity with regard to access to technology. And again, I thank Q Inc. and Microsoft EDU for addressing that. James says here, looking at the chat, if students don't have access to the technology they need, they're going to fall behind everyone else. Servando says, create change and correct wrongs and injustices. Absolutely, right? Because one of the things that we have to do is not only do what James has shared, and I think it's so great what James and Servando have shared there in the chat. If you haven't taken a look at the chat, go over there and take a look at it now. It's great stuff. If students don't have access to technology, they're going to fall behind. So there's an access issue, right? A lot of times we talk about achievement gaps, but as a very good friend of mine says, he's a superintendent here locally. He often says this, if we're going to talk about achievement gaps, we need to be talking also about opportunity gaps. And opportunities implicitly have what at their core, really the topic or the focus of access. Do we have access, right? And so what Servando has said in a follow-up to what James has said, and it's a great segue, right, between those two, is if we know that there are some inequities, right, we know that there's an issue, what are we going to do to solve it? What are the next steps? What are the next steps, right? And so this is why we have to have relevance and be relevant. Servando says erasing barriers. Absolutely. Love that. We have to take down barriers. And how many of you know that sometimes barriers are not the barriers you see? Sometimes they're barriers that you don't see. Natasha, let's see what Natasha says. Natasha says what one child needs to succeed is not going to be the same. They may be able to easily attain online learning opportunities because the home has all needs. There are some homes that, they're very fortunate. They're blessed. They do not have any disparities in terms of access to technology. Other students will need to have the gaps filled. Right. And so this is where one of the things that I will tell you that I have seen that's really been interesting over in a variety of different places throughout this COVID-19 experience has been how different school districts and different educational entities at the regional level, state level, and beyond, how they have addressed and have sought to address and sought to fix these disparities. Oh, yeah. Okay. This is great. Great stuff in the chat there. Again, if you're here on the session, if you've not looked at the chat, go over there and take a look at the chat. There's some good stuff there. So again, what role does relevance have in addressing the issues? You guys have talked about that. Great job. So glad you guys are here with me. You guys are phenomenal. Just a great chat, right? What's one of the things you did in life that proved to be a wise decision and still inspires you to this day? If you would just go ahead and type that in the chat. What's one of the things that you did in your life that proved to be a wise decision and still it inspires you to this day? If you would just go ahead and type that in the chat. Because you might be wondering, wow, Vernon, man, you're asking some really interesting questions. I don't know if anyone's really asked me that before or has asked me that maybe lately, right? Those of you that have seen me speak before or have been around me before, you know that anytime I ask a question like that, there definitely is a purpose or a place that we're going to, right? That's going to be a really neat place and a great place for all of us to have rich dialogue, because I'm a total huge believer in rich dialogue. All right. Becoming a teacher and taking big risk. Love that, James. Susan says becoming a school administrator. Love that. I remember when I got into campus level leadership, and that was a big step, right? That was a big step. And that was a big step, even with me having been part of a campus leadership team as an administrative intern before. That was still a big step. Jessica says, got my job by reaching out to my principal on Twitter and moved from New Jersey to Florida in a matter of 2 weeks. Can you say, wow, ladies and gentlemen? If somebody took risk, Jessica just said that right there and just shared that with us. That is great, Jessica. Wow. How many of you know in life, and I tell people this, professionally and personally, if you want something, you have to go after it and you have to get it. And all of what you all have shared is great. Let's see what Natasha says, or James says, not being shy. Yeah, you can't be shy, man. You have to go after it. Let's see what Natasha says. Natasha says, moving to a place I had never heard of to pursue a job offer. Still there, still here. Says, was a teacher, then a vice principal, an interim principal, now moving to a coordinator position. Wow. Can I tell you this right now? One act, one move of courage, of faith, of believing in yourself can be the one move that's the game changer. And I love that, because in each and every one of the stories that you all are sharing, that's what's implicit in that. That's at the very core of that, is that you said, you know what, I saw this, I believed in this totally in my heart, even if I was the only person that believed in it, and I took action. Wonderful. Just love that. Susan says, was a social worker, but realized that education was where I can reach students' lives early. I just want to go ahead and give you a huge kudos on that, Susan, because huge kudos. Because how many of you know that, you can be in the right career, what you think is the right career, and you can really even be experiencing success and have experienced some success, even significant success, even having received maybe accolades or awards from colleagues. But there's something within you that says, you know what, although I'm experiencing success, this is not the right place for me. It's not the best place for me in terms of who I am in my heart. And there's some people that never come to grips with that, and they never make the change, and they settle, right? Every person has to go ahead and make the decision in terms of what's best for them in their lives. But love that, Susan. That is great. Love that. Educators have the impact to change policies and practices that are destructive and harmful to children. Absolutely. And that's, one of the things that makes advocacy, and thank you so much for sharing that as well, Susan. One of the things that makes advocacy a real thing is we have to be aware. We have to know what's going on, right? That really kind of goes, all roads in this session are leading back to relevance, right? Which is why I absolutely love that and love the rich dialogue, because we have to be aware of what's going on, right? So here's the thing I want to share with you all. Each one of you have shared your stories about risk that you took to do something that at the time, nobody really knew, hey, is this really going to turn out the way that I think it's going to turn out or not, right? Nobody really knew that. But you knew in your heart, you truly believed in your heart, and you said, you know what, I'm going with this. I'm totally going with this 100%. I'm going to take action. Guess what that was? That was your life story. And guess what? When we go to being relevant really is this. It's not only knowing about the world around us, it's about knowing your own life story and the life stories of those around us. That is powerful. I just want you to stop and think about that for a second. It's not only about knowing your own life story. So for me, for Vernon Wright, it's not only about knowing my life story. It's about knowing and learning about the life stories of James, of Susan, of Natasha, Servando, the other people that are here on the call. It's about learning about your life stories as we're sharing here together today. I'm just so excited about it because that's the richness of it. That's what we bring. That's what we bring. Whether you work in a classroom, that's what you bring to the classroom. Whether you work at a campus level, that's what you bring to the campus. If you work at a district level, that's what you bring to the district. That's what you bring to the region. That's what you bring to the state, to the nation. And if you travel internationally, that's what you bring to the world. And really, we're traveling via Microsoft Teams. We're traveling through cyberspace, right? We're bringing that to the world, our life's stories, right? That is so awesome. Exploring the commonalities is what brings us together. And I will tell you that everyone here on this call, we may not necessarily look alike from an outside appearance. We may not all necessarily share the same ethnicity. But I want to tell you something. Looking beyond the outward differences, when we sat down, if we had a chance to share our life stories with each other, I would bet there would be some pretty deep commonalities. Because guess what one commonality is? That's brought us here together. One commonality is we're here to talk about being relevant. We don't all live in the same town. We don't all live in the same state. I even had in the last session someone that didn't even live in the United States, because I told you between Microsoft EDU and Q, this is a global venture. But our life stories bring us together. That's being relevant. All right, I'm so excited. Went to the next slide, right? So excited to share with you all. All right, so interesting question, right? I hope you have put your thinking caps on, because I'm going to test you on this one. What thing has to be present and established for people to feel relevance between each other? Let me repeat that one more time. Thank you so much, Monique. Appreciate that. That is a great quote. Outstanding quote. What thing has to be present and established for people to feel relevance between each other? If you would just go ahead and type that in the chat. What thing? And I'll go over here and make sure we're checking out the chat there. I know there are going to be some great responses. You guys are great. You guys are really, really, really good. Those that are just joining, you joined at a great time. You joined at a great time. What thing has to be present? Go ahead and join us here as we look at this question. What thing has to be present and established for people to feel relevance between each other? Connection, purpose, vision. Susan says that. Oh, wow. Love those answers right there. James says respect. You better believe it. RESPECT, right? Find out what it means to me. All right. Sense of community. Yes. Monique says trust and respect. Yes. Common ground. Natasha, love that. Yes. Man, you guys are sharp. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, guess what? Guess what? What I'm getting ready to share with you next, you're going to say, man, Vernon, that's exactly what I was thinking. Because I want you to notice something. When you turn and you look at the chat, because I'm going to turn and look at the chat right now, right? So I see connection, purpose, vision, respect, sense of community, trust and respect, common ground, right? So I see these answers that they're kind of similar, right? But they're a little different. But what I'm getting ready to share with you is like the glue that binds all of them and brings all of them together and holds them tightly. So excited, right? So excited to share this with you. So let's take a look at it, right? What thing has to be present and established for people to feel relevance between each other? It's trust. And I'm going to tell you something. Susan said connection, purpose, and vision. Let me tell you something. You really can't go deep on that unless you have trust. James said respect, RESPECT, right? You really can't have true, authentic respect without trust. Sense of community, you better have trust at the core of it or else you won't have community. Trust and respect, absolutely. Common ground, what's common ground? Common ground is built on what? Trust. Because I have to trust that you know, right, what I'm wondering, and I know what you're wondering. So we can have that common ground. That's trust, right? Because we go back and we look at it. What thing has to be present? It's trust. So let me go ahead and read the quote for you there. It says, the first steps to establishing trust are about letting the other person know that they are truly important to us and that we see their value as human beings. Wow, that's deep. The masterpiece of relevance that we wish to paint must begin with a canvas and the paintbrush of trust. And that is a quote from yours truly, the Wright leader. So one of the reasons why I just absolutely love this slide background is it's a canvas, right? And we paint on a canvas. And the canvas a lot of times is what we're wanting to go ahead and have be the end result. But the question is, what paintbrush are we using to paint this picture as we start out with a blank canvas? And some of you going forward, especially into what is going to be this next school year, I challenge you to challenge your colleagues and yourself as well to really think about this as we're painting the picture of what an authentic learning experience is for kids. Of all of the paintbrushes that we're using, is one of those paintbrushes trust? Because if one of those paintbrushes is not trust, we're not really painting the full picture. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go to the next step. Because you say, okay, yeah, that's cool, Vernon, trust. Everybody talks about establishing trust, right? You got to have trust. And then guess what typically happens with most professional development sessions where they talk about trust? They just kind of tell you that, right? Can I be authentic with you guys for a second? They tell you, focus on relationships, develop trust. Thanks for attending the session. Have a great day, right? And so the session is over and you're sitting there wondering to yourself, okay, I want to develop relationships and I want to develop trust, but they didn't give me the next steps. They didn't give me a place to start, right? It's kind of like when you give students a problem to work or a problem to solve or a passage to read and answer questions on. You have to give them what I call points of entry for the solutions. Points of entry. So we have to go ahead and start with that, right? So how can I start to build trust? How can I invite someone to tell me their story and as well share mine? How can I do that, right? Because here we are, we're agreeing about what things we have to have relevance. We've talked about the importance of relevance, what it means, and some of the other things that it can do for us and the effects that it can have, right? And how it addresses inequities and all of these really powerful, rich things, right? talked about risk that we've taken in life. Well, maybe we were the only ones that believed in ourselves. Well, you might be wondering, where do I start, Vernon? We start with the big three. And I'm going to tell you, if you haven't been taking notes, which I know all of you have, this is definitely a place where you will want to take notes. There are here the big three questions. And I love these big three questions. And I'm going to park here for a second or two and really share about these big three questions. It is my firm belief and my experience as I have been in this profession, double digits, right? In a variety of roles. It has been what I have seen to be the most important thing for leaders at all levels to ask those they lead either all of these three questions or one of these three questions, hopefully at least once a week. So let's go ahead and go through their three questions. Number one, what are you working on right now that you're absolutely passionate about? What are you working on right now that you're absolutely passionate about? Number two, why is that meaningful to you and what impact do you think it can have? And then the last one, what difference do you think it can make as it relates to the school or the district's vision and mission? Let me tell you something, folks. As I have asked these three questions over the years in a variety of roles, I have had teachers say to me, you know what? I've had fellow leaders say to me, you know what, Vernon? You're the first person to ask me that. And I have really wondered to myself over the years in a variety of roles, why are we not asking each other these questions at least once a week? Because that's where the innovation is. Everybody says, oh, I want innovation, right? That's where the innovation is. That's where the passion is. That's where the drive is. That's where the fire is within you to do great things, transformative things, and have kids at the center of that where you're not only a part of it, but the kids are an integral part of it. And in some cases, which is really what we love to see, right? It's student-led. It's not teacher-led. So I want you to think about this. You don't necessarily have to go ahead and put this in the chat, but think to yourself, when is the last time that somebody asked me one of these three questions, if not all three questions? When is the last time? And if you haven't been asked that question lately, either all three questions or even one of the three questions, really my wondering is, those that lead you, are they relevant with regard to you? Do they really know where you're at? Right? Because relevance is really knowing not only where you're at, right? But it's knowing what is your story. All right. So the big three. So let's look at the big three again, but let's go a little bit deeper. And so your credibility and experience is essential to establishing trust. So you have to be a person, because we talked about competence earlier, right? You have to be a person that has demonstrated some competence in order to really build this trust, because competence is inherently a part of trust. It's hard to really trust someone if you really don't feel that they're very competent. So competent is a part there. And there are many stories I could share with you about that over the years of things that I have learned through real life experiences about that. Competence is very important. You don't have to know everything, but you have to know some things. An accurate assessment demonstrates your understanding and competence. You have to know what's going on in real time. Do you have to know every single thing and have every single thing figured out? No. But you do need to have some type of working knowledge to say, okay, you know what? I think I have a grasp of what's going on here, right? Because if you're trying to move forward without having an understanding of what's going on, how many of you know that it's just the leader moving forward by themselves and without everyone else working with them? And that's not what we want. So the last thing is your ability to connect with, value, and shine the light on others leads to the buy-in for the extraordinary. I want to tell you this, that, I was with a leader years ago, and the leader said this in a group of leaders that I was in. The leader said, as a leader, instead of trying to shine the light on yourself, shine the light on those that you lead. And if you shine the light on those that you lead and you help them advance, they will in turn shine the light on you. And I thought that was so powerful because I was in that meeting with some individuals that were very focused on some things that they wanted to do, right? And so really thinking about this shift, instead of saying, hey, let me shine the light on myself, shine the light on those that I lead. Shine the light on those that I am blessed to lead, right? Every single person in that room had to really think about that. But when we help to elevate the voices of others, which is one of the things that I love about my company, zeroapologyzone.com, when we use our platform to elevate the voices of others, especially those that have been marginalized, right? Those that disproportionately have been affected by COVID, disproportionately have been affected by a lot of other things. When we use our platforms and our voices to help raise their voices, that really makes an impact. All right. So the big three, let's go deeper real quick. Be real, be authentic. That's EQ, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is something that sometimes is misunderstood by leaders. Be competent, be accurate. We've talked about that. That's EQ, emotional intelligence as well. Be caring. You have to be caring. You have to have empathy. So you say, okay, Vernon, this is great. This is good. Let's talk about the power of relevancy. So we've talked all about these things about being relevant, what it is, and some other things, right? And here's one of the main points as we come to the last part of this session. Being relevant is about connecting the learning and our experiences with others in their lives. One of our imperatives, notice I said they're imperatives. It's not a suggestion. It's not a recommendation. It's really something that dare I say, we have a moral obligation to do. And life is about sharing our experiences and learning in a way that forms a bridge. If we don't form bridges between each other as different cultures, as different races, as different ethnicities, if we don't form bridges, we'll never be able to travel between our stories and bring our stories together. It's about building bridges that forms a bridge between our life and those of others. And I've put there sustainability of learning. If you would in the chat, go ahead and put there, what do you believe sustainability of learning means? What does sustainability of learning mean to you? Sustainability of learning. If you would put that in the chat, what does sustainability of learning mean to you? Sustainability of learning. So someone came up to you and said, hey, sustainability of learning, what does that mean to you? What would you say? Give you a few moments here in the chat. Jennifer says, taking learning out of class and into the real world long after the class ends. That is excellent. Thank you so much, Jennifer. That is great. Monique says, learning that can be generalized everywhere. Love that as well, Monique. Forming a bridge, sustainability of learning. Here's what happens, right, with sustainability of learning. First of all, to sustain something means that it just doesn't happen for a short time and then dissipates or fades completely. It continues on. Sustainability of learning really is made possible by telling our life stories and connecting them with each other. Because can I tell you a little hint and give you a little hint at this point, again, as we come to the close of our time of sharing here together today? It's really this. We create memories. And I shared this in the session about the 5 R's. We create memories, and I'm sharing it here with you all today. How many times have we created memories in something that happened 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago? We still remember because we created a memory. And so the power of relevancy allows us to do what? Between us as adults, create memories, but between us as adults and students, create favorable memories for them, especially if the student has lived a life, unfortunately, that has been one that has experienced trauma. Trauma. Okay? Trauma. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next thing. All right. Thank you guys for sticking with me there. So next steps. Now what? What does this look like in district? What role do I play in this? What's my potential impact as a leader, teacher leader, various roles? Great questions. Let's go ahead and give you the bottom line as we close and come to the end of our sharing here today. Relevance is about knowing our own life story, learning about others' life stories, and then connecting those stories together. Trust is at the core of learning about other stories and inviting others to learn about our story. Takes a lot of trust there. We have to build trust. How do we build trust? What construct or tool can we use to build trust? There are many that are out there, but we could start with the three big questions. What are you working on right now that you're passionate about? Number two, what impact do you think it's making? Why is it important to you? And what impact and do you think it will make on a larger scale at the school level, campus level, or even the district level, regional level, or beyond? And lastly, we begin to build real trust. How many of you know that trust is more than just a word? It's more than just semantics. It really means something, right? Real trust, when the other person knows we value them as human beings. No curriculum can do that. No textbook can do that, physical or digital. No other educational tool can do that. Only human beings can. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been my privilege, my honor, and my pleasure to have been with you all today. Of course, there you will see my name. Of course, there is Vernon Wright on Twitter. The handle is @the Wright Leader. It has been, again, my pleasure to be with you all. You all were phenomenal. You were great. You need to give yourselves a hand clap, and you were awesome. If you want to go ahead and check out the other speakers, which I tell you, you should, because they are great, that are part of the Q and Microsoft EDU lineup as part of Global EdTech Academy. Go to q.org/Microsoft. You see it there on the slide at the bottom. And to watch session replays, go to q.org/GETA recording. If you're going to go ahead and tweet out about some of the great things that made an impact with you today, please go ahead and tag me on that. Would love that. Love to hear about and see those things that made an impact with you, that resonated with you. Please make sure also, too, to include those hashtags at the bottom, Microsoft EDU, hashtag GETA, and hashtag WeAreQ. Thank you guys so much for being here with me today. That is the end of what we are here to share about. I will be staying here for just a few moments. The recording now has stopped. I'll be staying here for just a few moments. And if there is anything else that